Hi, everyone. Welcome to Blockbeats Next Show. I'm your host tonight, Thomas. We're co-hosting with RockTree Capital for RockTree OG Talk series, and this is the first talk of many from RockTree. Today, we're focusing on the new investment trends. RockTree is an early-stage investment fund from China, focusing on blockchain projects at the nexus of Greater China and North America. RockTree's advisory arm is a blockchain professional services platform specializing in providing project accelerations in overseas markets, including transaction execution, cross-border financing, token exchange listing, community growth, legal compliance, and rapid global expansion for top-tier blockchain projects. The RockTree team in Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, Singapore, New York, and Toronto includes a full team of crypto-native finance, capital markets, digital marketing, and legal compliance experts that provides a truly global solution for blockchain projects. Top projects get connected into RockTree's international ecosystem of leading investment partners, funds, media, crypto exchange, and service providers. 欢迎大家来到律动视频的直播间。那么今天晚上呢，是律动 Blockbeats 与石木资本一起联合主办的 RockTree OG Talk 系列的第一期节目。咱们今天的主题是新的投资趋势。石木资本呢是一家国际投资集团，也是一家早期的投资基金，专注于区块链项目的投资与生态支持。那么作为大中华地区和北美地区的桥梁以及是纽带，石木资本在早期投资于估值较低的优质项目，并且为顶级的区块链项目提供交易执行、海外融资、代币交易所上市、社区发展、法律合规等等全方面的服务。RockTree 的专业团队也是分布在北京、上海、南京、新加坡、纽约、多伦多，为区块链项目呢提供真正全球化的解决方案。我们今天呢也是有幸请到了石木资本的董事长欧阳墨博士，以及是 Coral Capital 的 GP， 还有 Galaxy Digital 的联合创始人David Namdar 先生，以及是水滴资本的联合创始人郑玉山先生，跟我们一起聊一下新的投资趋势。Today, I'm honored to invite Dr. Omar Ostin, Chairman of RockTree Capital, David J. Namdar, JP of Coral Capital and co-founder of Galaxy Digital, as well as Yushan Zheng, co-founder and managing partner of Waterdrip Capital, to have a talk with us on new investment trends. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. So before we start, would you guys like to introduce a little bit about yourself? Omar, would you want to take the lead, and then David, and then Jen?
Thomas, I think you did a good job in introducing me. So I'll just add that we invest into projects at the nexus of the West and the East, and we work closely with Beijing Gen Fund in Beijing, which taught us to really focus on teams and a way to invest. And it's actually the Xindong Fang group that brought me out to China in the 1990s originally. And that let me work on deals such as Baidu, NetEase, Alibaba, and in the West in Facebook as well. And so what we're looking for are the next large projects, the next Facebooks, the next Alibabas, and Web3.
非常感谢刚刚 Thomas 的介绍。其实呢，你已经介绍了部分关于我的内容，我再补充一点。首先呢，石木资本是关于包括在中国、亚太和西方的一些投资项目。那么其实早在上世纪90年的时候呢，我就跟随新东方的创始人介绍到了中国来做相关的一些投资项目。同时我现在也和新东方创始人所成立在北京的真格基金深度的发展，我们也借鉴他们的投资哲学，相当的关注所有被投项目的团队。其实早在上世纪的时候，我们就已经完成了包括百度、阿里、网易、脸书等这些大项目。接下来的话，我们就想面对下一代的百度、阿里、网易、脸书这一类型的大项目。非常感谢。
Thanks, Omar. David, would you want to go next?
Sure. So I started my career in Hong Kong, and I was working at UBS Investment Bank, and I credit my time there as really opening my eyes to the potential of the cryptocurrency space, because on a daily basis, I was on the trading side, and I was trading all of the Asian markets, ex-Japan, and also doing arbitrage and currency trading in Europe and the US as well. And then when I moved back to New York in 2010, I was working at a hedge fund there, Millennium, and continuing to have ties to Asian markets. And I was trading Asian hours, so in the evenings, to continue the linkage there and paying attention to all of the markets across Asia. And when I first found out about Bitcoin in 2011, I started to really think about this idea of a currency that was born from the internet. And so during my time in Hong Kong, I saw that most of the people across Asia really had an advantage over the rest of the world, because they thought in different currencies already that they were comfortable with and used to the idea of not just their own local currency, but a lot of their neighboring countries, and a lot of the other major currency pairs, the USD, the Euro, the Yen, the Australian dollar. And so for me, I found it fascinating. And then I was leaving the traditional finance world, and I in 2012, 2013, and I set up my first company in the crypto space called SolidX Partners, which was one of the first investment banks focused entirely on cryptocurrency. We were the second group to try to put out a Bitcoin ETF following the Winklevoss twins, also in 2014, and tried to create the derivative side of the market. And then, as Thomas had mentioned, a couple of years later, I founded Galaxy Digital with Mike Novogratz. That's gone on to be one of the biggest financial services firms in the crypto space. And then more recently, last year, I moved down to Puerto Rico. And down here, I've been advising a couple of large family offices. I started an investment fund called RockTree Capital, which is focused on really a lot of the recent trends in decentralized finance and Web3, but as well, as a lot of the things that are coming in the market, in the years to come. And then I also helped another company go public last year called Immutable Holdings, and one of the subsidiaries was NFT.com. So for part of last year, I was the CEO of NFT.com as well.
非常感谢主持人的介绍。那我想和大家简单的介绍一下我的基本的背景。其实最开始的话呢，我是在香港的 UBS 投行部门工作。当时其实我最感谢这份工作的原因之一，就是帮我打开了整个格局，了解到了有加密货币这一项可以投资的业务。其实我在 UBS 投行的时候，日常的工作就是从事一些针对日本市场以外的亚洲市场的一些交易。我的具体交易包括有货币交易和一些套期交易。当然，我也关注像欧洲和美洲的一些这样的市场的工作。到了2010年的时候呢，我就从香港转移到了整个欧洲。那会儿的话，因为其实我自己做的主要2010年我从香港到了美国，那会儿我关注的呢，主要还是一些亚洲市场上的一些表现。我当时工作的公司叫做千禧对冲基金 Millennium， 那会儿我的工作时间呢，基本上是晚上，因为主要还是关注一些亚洲市场的一些变化。到了2011年的时候呢，我就开始正式的关注像加密货币了，尤其是比特币，因为我了解到比特币它本身就是植根于互联网的原生货币。我也了解到根据我往年在香港的经验，我知道香港和亚太地区其实它比世界上很多地区它都有优势，因为他们已经准备好了去接受这样的一种新的货币。他们除了使用本土的法币之外，也会积极的去拥抱这些新的货币。此外的话，他们也会做包括像美元、欧元、澳元以及日元去对冲相关的这些加密货币。后来大概到了2012到2013年左右，我就彻底放弃了传统的货币和投资方面的工作，我就转到当时我成立了一家叫做 Solid 相关的一家加密货币企业，是和 ETF 相关。到了2014年的时候，我就开始从事加密货币的一些衍生产品。最近也就是今天，我的一些简历上大家可以看到，我又创始了 Galaxy Digital。那么呢，这也是一家关于去中心化货币的企业。后来呢，最近的话，我又在波多黎各成立了 Cover Fund， 这也是一家去中心化基于 Web 3.0 技术的帮助一些家族管理财富的企业。同时，去年其实我还帮助一家企业上市。 同时上市之后，我也担任了相关的管理工作。感谢各位。
Thanks, David. Very impressive. Mr. Zheng Yushan, what about you?
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So this is Yushen from Waterdrip Capital. So first of all, I would like to thank RockTree Capital for inviting me here. So I'm very glad to be here to join this talk with all of you. Well, a brief introduction to myself. So I knew Bitcoin in 2012 when I was writing my PhD thesis. So that's why I had plenty of time to read the magazine, and then I found Bitcoin and purchased not many. But I officially entered crypto industry actually in 2013 when I joined the first decentralized exchange called BitShares as the moderator in its official forum. That, of course, that's a part-time job. So in 2017, 4 years after I knew Bitcoin, so I quitted from my full-time job as a silicon chip designer and co-founded Waterdrip Capital with 3 other friends. So all of them are very early blockchain pioneers in China. So as some people might have known, Waterdrip Capital is focusing on early stage blockchain projects investment. So since 2017, we have already invested in more than 100 projects, including some co-investment with RockTree Capital. We also have some capital deployed on Bitcoin mining. So right now we are planning to release our new fund in Hong Kong next year, which is cooperated with a traditional financial wheel company. So it's a fully under regulation. I hope to share more news in coming months. Thanks. So I think I can translate for myself. It will be better. 大家好，我是郑玉山，来自水滴资本。这个首先非常感谢石木资本的邀请。我非常高兴能够跟大家来今天晚上来分享。然后首先介绍一下自己啊，因为今天的主题是OG Talk， 我要先证明自己比较老。我最早的知道比特币是12年，当时临近 PhD 毕业，然后有很多时间去空闲的时间哈，就偶然的发现了这个比特币，然后也买了一些，当然不是很多。然后我其实真正的完全全职的也不是全职啊，真正的我觉得进入了这个行业是在13年，当时是加入了比特股。我相信很多的老人应该知道这个项目，它是世界上第一个去中心化的交易所。当然了，这个我并不是加入团队啊，我是作为志愿者加入了它的官方社区。这个作为这个论坛的中文论坛的版主负责中国跟国外团队的这么一个中国的那个粉丝的交流吧，也负责沟通这个国内外的一些交流这样的。然后一直到2017年，我才全职的加入了这个科普行业。当时是我跟另外几个朋友。当然，他们都是国内最早的一批这个区块链从业者了。我们一块成立了水滴资本，当然是以自有资金为主的这么一个 token fund。然后，那介绍一下水滴资本，我们水滴资本专注于早期项目的投资。那从17年开始到现在也有几期基金了，总共投了100多个项目。然后，当然跟那个 RockTree 也一块投了不少项目这个表现应该算是不错的。我们有一部分的资金呢，也在这个比特币挖矿这方面。当然了，受去年那个政策影响比较大了，那现在基本都退出到了海外去继续进行这个业务。那我们最新的一个进展的话，就是我们这个明年会在香港发行我们的最新期基金。那跟一家比较大的巨头吧，已经签了协议。是一个比较确认的事情。当然，现在因为还没有公开的发布我还不能透露名字。但是我希望大家关注我们，然后未来的几个月会有好的消息出来。谢谢大家 ，Thank you。
好的，谢谢玉山。Thanks, 玉山。All right, thank you guys. I think we can delve straight in now. Before we go a little more deeper, let me ask you guys a more general question regarding our topic today. It is said that the bear market is a good time for investors to invest early and for developers to build. But the crypto industry is developing so fast that, so many projects or themes or narratives can go obsolete in a matter of months. And, Web3, DeFi, SocialFi, cross-chain assets, etc., which sectors are still worthy of investors' attention and you're excited about in the future? And what do you think will no longer valid for, investment thesis in the future? And why? Mr. Omar, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think for RockTree, we have a philosophy, which is you don't skate to where the puck is, you have to skate to where the puck is going. 就是 puck 就是冰球，你知道冰球的速度非常快，那个加密货币的行业的速度也很快。So you can't think about what's happening now. You have to think about what's happening in the future. That's tough to do. But I think like the main area that we're super excited about is interchain, cross-chain infrastructure, all the things that happen with layer 2, layer 1, middleware needs to happen on a cross-chain basis. And I think that this is going to be a game changer over the next 2 to 10 years because eventually the users will be chain agnostic and there will be a layer that will make it all cross-chain for them depending on what they're doing. So I think that's really important for us. Obviously DeFi is the core of crypto finance, and we just need to see more innovation there based on what we learned since 2019. We also think social, decentralized social networks are going to be big as well. We like I said, we worked with Facebook back in 2006, the earliest days, and I think that this can be a disruptor. Both DeFi can be a disruptor for centralized finance and exchanges, including in crypto, and decentralized social can eventually be a disruptor over a long period of time for the centralized offerings.
那么首先我想请教各位一个比较泛的问题，也就是说一般人认为一般熊市是咱们投资者进入市场投资的好时机，对开发者而言也是如此。加密货币可以说整个行业发展的非常快，现在我们经常可以看到像一些 Web 3.0 DeFi SocialFi 这样的一些项目，有的呢可能可以发展的很好，有的可能1个月就不见了就没了。那么我想问一下3位大佬，那你们觉得哪一些项目值得关注和投资，哪一些可能以及会失去大家的投资重点和讨论？那么第一位呢是欧默尔来回答。那么我们认为其实在我们实木资本，我们始终有一套完整的投资哲学。投资呢就跟我们在打冰球一样，那么冰球的速度非常的快，我们要关注的并不是球现在在哪个位置，而是要关注这个球它未来很快会走向哪个方向。未来总体来说，我们非常关注跨链的发展，包括像 L1 层、L2 层、中间层。在未来2到10年，我预计在技术方面，这都是一些引领未来的方向。因为用户而言，他也会非常关注多层的一些发展。那么总体来说，我们可以说有2大趋势，还是仍然值得关注的。第一，仍然是 DeFi， 它是整个加密货币的核心。在未来的话，我们需要做的是更多的创新。其实在2019年开始，这种创新就已经开始了，但是我们还会看到更多的这样的一些 DeFi 的交易场所。那么第2大方向呢，就是 Social Decentralization。我在2006年就跟 Facebook 有过合作。我认为其实在 DeFi 领域，他们是做了金融方面的一些颠覆和创新。那么在社会去中心化领域，就像 Facebook 一样，他们也会成为一个重要的颠覆点。
Great answer. I have a follow-up question. Omar, you mentioned social, and the social track I'm also very interested in. But for the last year, the social track hasn't really taken off. We've been saying that the social track will take off, but we didn't really see the kind of explosion that we saw in DeFi, in the social track, in the social area. I was wondering, how long do you think we need for the social to really take off?
That's a really difficult question, but as much as governments have difficulty with centralized finance, and we've seen it in America, and we've seen it in China and other places as well, I think they even have a bigger difficulty with decentralized social because that's really important and strategic to them. So I think like it's really going to take, I think you might start to, it's very difficult to predict. I can't fashion, but it's going to probably take at least 3 years to get some traction and probably 10 years to really see it fully develop.
谢谢欧盟的回答。那么就从你刚刚的回复而言，我也想问一个补充问题，因为我本人对社交这一层的发展也非常的感兴趣。其实从去年开始就有很多人预测啊，我们的 social decentral 这一块会有大的发展，但是大家并没有看到这样的一个爆发。所以我想请教一下您，您觉得大概在一个什么样的时间节点，我们会发现这种巨大的显著的变化呢？回答如下：其实我们在过去几年看到了呀。全球的部分政府，包括像美国政府和中国政府，就 DeFi 金融层已经在管制方面遇到了一些挑战。那么，如果在社会层社交这一层呢，也涉及到整个国家的战略布局，可能遇到的一些难点和挑战，甚至比 DeFi 还要大。我们其实现在并不是非常容易的就能够去预测什么时候 social DeFi 它能够发展。我可能觉得3年左右的时间可以取得一些初步的进展，10年左右能够蓬勃。
That is a great answer. David, what about you? What do you think?
Sure. Well, I think Omer really nailed it nicely, this idea of just looking ahead to the future. I think what I've seen, having been through a number of cycles in the cryptocurrency space, is that when things are going really well and everything is at a point of maximum excitement, that's usually when you start to see worse and worse projects, and at the same time when everybody wants to rush into the market. So I try to be a little bit counter-cyclical and counter-trend, and I'm constantly, and I convey this to my team at Coral, looking for things that people are going to be excited about a couple of years down the line in the future. And so sometimes what that means is not looking for what the general public and where a lot of the mainstream hype is, but looking for the things that some of the youngest and geekiest people in the space are getting excited about. The technologists, the crypto purists, seeing where they're playing around with technology that seems like a toy, but eventually could be used by a much wider group. And so I think that's what we've seen in the last cycle with decentralized finance, with a lot more people using some of the lending and borrowing platforms and even decentralized derivatives and trading platforms. We still, in this cycle, have had a lot of focus, and I think too much, on centralized exchanges and centralized lending platforms. And that's where a lot of the issues have come from in the past year or so as the market has contracted.
非常感谢，刚刚欧盟其实回答的已经非常到位了。其实我的观点也和他非常的一致。我们要关注的是未来的发展。我们都知道啊，其实加密货币在过去多年中已经经历过了几个周期，人们基本上在市场向好以及整个市场环境都很不错的时候，反而会有很多不良的项目慢慢的增加起来，所以我始终坚持要带一点这样的反周期的眼光和一些反趋势的概念来进行操盘。其实我也是这么给我的一些团队来进行沟通和赋能的，让他们始终记得要多看几年。其实我觉得一个技术的发展，更多的还要看到一些年轻人和一些公众的态度如何。比方说，我发现在过去2年中，很多年轻人觉得技术它是一个非常好玩的，也令人非常着迷的，他们愿意去为了技术而发展技术。那么这一点让我就觉得是有希望的，因为 DeFi 的发展关键还在于人愿意用，要用得多。我们也看到了，其实之前人们会用它来做一些借贷，做一些这种衍生品，或做一些这样的交易，这就很好。当然，同时我们也看到了，之所以金融系统有很多问题，还是在于传统的中心化金融它被用的非常的多，由此还是会带来很多相关的一些问题。
Couldn't agree more. Thanks, David. I'm curious. I know you've been talking with a lot of, crypto developers. I'm very curious. Would you like to share one cases that about, like the shiny new toy that, the crypto purists are playing with right now that you've seen? Do you like to share one?
Sure. I think Lightning payments, everything around the Lightning network is where a lot more of the developer excitement is recently. And, there's been this trend towards, as Bitcoin and crypto has grown, where, it's sort of outgrown what people expected it could in a short period of time. And so in order to achieve scalability, people have been playing with things like Lightning in order to improve the actual scalability of the whole Bitcoin network. Now, we've seen a number of other networks get launched to achieve that same aim, but I think that's definitely something I'm paying a lot of attention to, because it ties into what you and Omer were talking about with decentralized social networks. And even as we get to, into other things like artificial intelligence, and for there to be bot-to-bot communication and other things at a scale beyond human comprehension, we need really scalability to be achieved for a lot of those future promises of a decentralized internet to take hold.
Absolutely.
感谢，因为刚刚您也说到了，您应该和很多开发者和一些从事技术开发的人有很多密切的互动和一些交集，所以我想请您来给我们举个例子，看看哪一些比较炫酷的工具得到了良好的一些使用和开发的。那么回答如下，其实我想举的其中的一个例子呢，就是 Lightning Network。以及包括上面也有相关的一些支付功能，因为我们今天是谈论关于像比特币和加密货币之类的发展，在 Lightning Network 上面，我就发现它有一个很好的目的，就是要增加它的一个可扩展性，这点它的发展其实比我们想的还要好。所谓的可扩展性，也是现在我们很多不同的这些网络它要所达到的一个共同的目的。因为刚刚 Omer 也说到了，未来还有很多新的技术，我也相信像我们能够想到的有人工智能的应用，还有像这种 bot to bot 的一些使用，都可以考虑在里面。
Great answer. So Mr. Zheng Yushan, what's your thoughts? Do you have anything to add?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I appreciate David mentioned Lightning Network. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I like Lightning Network too. Yeah. Well, I'll go back to the topic. So actually, I fully agree that in bear market is a perfect time for build and for early investment. So in bull market, we know everyone focuses on narrative instead of the true value that the product created for the whole industry. So however, in bear market, so a founder has to ask himself, so what if the whole market doesn't buy his story? So if the founder can answer like, oh, it's okay, people don't buy my story, because I can still convince him to buy my product, because my product can resolve some real issues, or my product can help him increase some efficiency or reduce the cost. Then yeah, it means this founder doesn't need to worry about the bear market, right? Well, to speak specifically, so Waterdrip Capital is looking for projects from 3 sectors. So the first one is blockchain infrastructure. So I don't mean layer 1. So actually, I think there are already too many layer 1 blockchains in crypto world. So I mean hardware infrastructure, including decentralized storage or decentralized computing, as well as some software infrastructure, for example, decentralized asset management platform or the integrated development environment. So for developers, yeah. If you would like to move the whole Web 2 into Web 3, all of the above are very necessary. Yeah. The second sector that we are interested is blockchain gaming or metaverse based projects that are developed by some very experienced traditional team. Such projects usually can bring a high a high liquidity or some new blood to crypto industry, which is I think the basis of next bull run, next bull market. And personally, I think traditional industry experience is quite important here, as you cannot imagine that an application with a lot of bugs will make like 100 users daily. Yeah, it's very different from DeFi summer. So when most of the DeFi projects were very simple, that the dev team will usually consists of less than 10 people. That's usual case. But as you can see, many DeFi projects were hacked due to lack of careful examination or coding experience. So this is why the software infrastructure is very important. Yeah, the third sector is Bitcoin layer 2, which is also called a Lightning network. Before, Lightning network was equal to Lightning payment network, but actually there are some emerging Lightning network that you can have DeFi on them. Yeah, for example, one Lightning network was created by Omni Labs. Yeah, on this new Lightning network, you will have DeFi, you will have swap, you will have exchange, and you can also issue USDT. So that is also promising. Yeah, these three sectors that are the we think are very promising in the next bull market. Thanks. 我来翻译一下我自己说的，就是我觉得就是首先非常感谢 David 提到了闪电网络，因为这也是我们非常关注也非常重磅投资的一个赛道。然后我们相信呢，就是在熊市呢是一个非常完美的to build 去建设以及去做一些早期投资的一个时候，因为这样的话也大家不用太着急，也不用去抢定，对吧？那在牛市的时候呢，很多的机构包括个人更加关注于叙事，就一个项目的叙事，就是它到底会不会画大饼，而不是这个项目有没有真正的去解决一些问题，或者说有没有真正的给这个行业创造一些真正的价值。那但是呢，在熊市呢，如果说一个创始人他问自己，那如果说我讲这个故事，市场不买账怎么办？但这没有关系，我觉得，就如果说即使大家不买你的故事的账，但是大家可以很开心的用你的产品去给它降低成本，或者给它提高效率啊，或者说去真正的解决一些实际的问题，那我相信不管你的故事好不好，那至少用户是愿意去买你的产品的。那么当一个项目它的产品有人买的时候，那我相信这个项目一定也是一个好的项目。那具体来说的话呢，具体的项目方面呢，那我们水滴资本主要是在沿着3条投资主线去投这个第一个就是区块链的基础设施，当然这个并不是指Layer 1，我们反而我们觉得这个市面上已经有太多的 Layer 1，那大部分可能在下个牛市不会存在。那我们说的 Layer 1呢，更多的是这种硬件和软件的基础设施，比如说区块链的硬件的基础设施就包括分布式的存储以及分布式的计算。那软件的基础设施呢，就包括这个去中心化的资产管理，或者说去中心化的开发环境这个软件去中心化资产管理很好理解这个去中心化的开发者环境，这个意思就是说现在有太多的就是原来的整个行业的程序员还是比较随意，或者说比较年轻，他们没有太多的经验，那么使得很多开发不够标准化，或者不够细节上不够注意，那么就导致了像在 DeFi Summer 之后，是有很多的 DeFi 的产品都被盗了。那么这个大部分都是因为这个开发者不够有经验，或者说不够仔细导致的。那么如果有一些去中心化的开发环境使得一些开发可以标准化的进行的话，那我相信这些情况可以被避免那如果我们想把整个 Web2 的很多应用迁到 Web3 来的话， 那我相信这些不论是刚才提到的去中心化存储啊、计算呀，包括这个软件的基础设施啊，我觉得都是非常有必要的。那么第二个我们比较侧重的投资的领域就是区块链游戏或者说元宇宙为载体的一些大流量的应用而且这些应用最好是由传统的非常强的这种团队过来，就是他们已经有在传统行业有非常成功的开发运营经验的这些团队来做的这些项目，这个是我们非常喜欢的为什么呢？因为这个你很难想象你一个没有经验的这个团队做出来一个很多 bug 的一个产品能够留存我认为超过10万以上的用户，这是比较难的。这个跟 DeFi 是不一样的，很多的 DeFi 产品因为代码总共就没多少行，所以它可能只需要很少的这个 developer， 但是这种游戏或者元宇宙是完全不一样的，它需要很多很多人的通力合作最后一个领域我们重点要这个在关注的或者在投资的就是这个闪电网络，而且是新型的比特币的 Layer 2，就是闪电网络。那大家之前可能都以为闪电网络就等于一个比特币的快速的支付网络，但实际上现在有很多新的闪电网络，它上面是可以做 DeFi 的，上面可能甚至有这个去中心化交易 Swap 这种。那我觉得这种的话可能会打开一个新的领域让很多应用来有效的利用整个虚拟币市场的最大的一块资产，也就是比特币，来做一些 DeFi。这样在资金没有足够的新的资金流入的情况下，那我们也可以那个自己圈子里可以这个再来一轮牛市都是有可能的。好，That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Yishan. I think that's a very comprehensive answer. And it seems like everybody's focus is on the Lightning network. And I've talked to some developers and they do says that it is a very interesting area. And so the next question I would like to ask David, this is an OG series and you've demonstrated yourself as an OG moving to digital assets in 2014, I think. The last, and later being the co-founder with Mike Novogratz of Galaxy Digital, and now focusing on DeFi with Coral Capital. How do you accurately predict what areas are the hotspot and what characters do you look for in projects, in terms of venture investment? And does that change in terms of utilizing DeFi platforms for, activities such as yield farming? And what are the obvious signs for these projects that our audience can look for?
Sure. So yeah, 2014 was when I went full-time in crypto, and now it feels like I've been in this space for my whole life. And I tell people I can't imagine working in anything anywhere else.
For sure.
I enjoy doing things like this and really just helping people as much as I can open their eyes to the possibilities in the space and to try to protect them and do it in a safe way where they're not just chasing the latest trends as I had mentioned earlier. And so really what I try to do and try to look for, I mentioned the excitement people have in projects, but also I try to make it a bit more personal too. When everybody comes to me with new projects, and one of the first things I ask them when I try to make it very simple is, okay, is this something you would use yourself, or is it something you're trying to sell to other people? And in the peak of the NFT boom in the last year or two, for example, everyone was coming with gaming ideas, blockchain-based gaming, and also play to earn, and a lot of NFT projects that they had this idea that they were going to sell a large amount to other groups of people. And the first thing I would ask them is, would you buy this yourself? And the answer 99.9% of the time was, no, this is for someone else. And so I really try to avoid projects and people that are building things to sell into the hype just for someone else. And so I think when you're looking at projects, really one of the good things to think about is, is this something that, even if it's something new, is this something that I would want to use myself? Does this make sense? Right. And so I'm always thinking about all of the different types of activities I do on a day-to-day and monthly and yearly basis in terms of investing in personal finance and, peer-to-peer monetary exchange between friends and movement of money around the world and movement between different currencies. And that ties into what Omer had said about, the likelihood that cross-chain continues to grow. And so, so I think those are a lot of the things. And then I think too, another really important thing in the space is to look for people that have been involved for a longer period of time and really who are much more public and out there. A lot of the other risks that have come in this space more recently were with anonymous teams or people that have pivoted into the space to capitalize on the latest hype or trend.
那么下一个问题呢，我想问一下 David， 因为你已经可以说是一个老炮了呀，刚刚已经说到过了，在2014年的时候呢，您就已经开始进入了整个数字资产行业，后来呢，同时和 Michael 一块儿也成为了银河数字的联合创始人，现在呢又成立了珊瑚资本，一起关注于 DeFi， 所以我想请问一下，您是如何准确的预测这一些热点，以及在风投方面如何去探索这个项目是否可行，包括在利用 DeFi 的平台进行流动性挖矿的时候啊，您是否有一些趋势的变化？那么答案如下。首先呢，我从2014年开始就开始全职进入加密货币行业，从此之后我感觉这就成了我的天职，它不仅帮助我打开了眼界，我也想把我所得到的知识赋予我身边所有的同行，同时我还想要去保护他们，告诫他们用安全的方式去进行投资，而不是单纯的只是去追逐热点。因为我们知道，我其实有一个这样的条件，我觉得非常的适用于所有人，也就是说，当你开发一个产品和项目的时候，你可以问问，如果你是用户，你会去购买吗？如果你是或者说你是用户，你会去使用吗？还是说你开发这个项目、这个产品，你只是为了卖给别人而已？在去年左右的时间，大家也感受到了 NFT 非常的火爆，当时我也看了很多这样的项目，还有一些是基于这样的区块链的一些游戏，很多人来找我，我就问他们呢，你觉得你做这个 NFT 的项目，你是自己打算去买呢，还是说你只是为了单纯的卖给别人而已？基本上超过99%的人，99.9%的人都说他们自己是不会去买、不会用的，无非就是卖给别人。所以我非常关注这一点。我包括在每天的一个工作中，还是每个月复盘，以及哪怕是每年的一个工作中，包括无论是我个人的一些投资，还是做这样的一些跨链的开发，或者是说朋友之间的一些简单的一些货币交易，我都会秉持这样的一个原则。那么除此之外，其实我也看重，当我们进入一个新兴行业的时候，我也非常看重是否身边有这个行业比较有经验的一些人，所谓的这些老鸟，因为有他们在的话，也能够帮助我更好的去规避一些风险。
Great answer. I think this also goes back to what you were talking about, the anti-cycle. Like we have to look for the things that only the crypto purists are looking at, that they're building, they're playing with. I'd like to ask a kind of similar question to Mr. Omar. Omar, you're known as the decacorn hunter for hunting projects that will be above billion, 10 billions market cap wise. The most important thing I think for investors is to risk control, but greed is a dark side of the human nature. You're an investor who has invested in many projects that has become, decacorns reaching billions and even tens of billions in market capitalization, such as Chainlink, GRT, DYDX, Phantom, and Pocket, etc. Can you share with us what is your investment philosophy to identify these projects and also your philosophy on risk control?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I'm just going to give like some short answers so we can have some translation. First of all, I mentioned that our partner fund in Beijing is Gen Fund, Jenga Jijin, and it was Yu Minghong and Xu Xiaoping who originally brought me out to China. And what Xiaoping and Wang Qiang taught me and RockTree is look at the teams, analyze the people. In the end, crypto is supposed to be decentralized, but it's really centralized because no matter how good the tech is, no matter how secure, it comes down to the people itself when you're investing, particularly early stage. So I'll just let the interpreter interpret that.
那么我想问一下欧 mer 下一个问题啊，因为您可以说是一个非常成功的实角兽投资人了，我们也知道，其实可以说在投资领域，风险控制是非常非常重要的，因为我们知道贪婪也是人性的一个黑暗面。在过去多年中，您投了很多可以说市值超过10亿甚至100亿的一些项目，包括像 Chainlink、GRT、DYDX、Phantom 和 Pocket 等等，所以想听一听您的一些投资理念和一些风险控制的一些哲学。那么回答如下：首先呢，其实我刚刚和大家也分享过了，我其实和当时新东方创始人团队，像俞敏洪、徐小平还有王强，以及他们所在北京成立的真格基金，有着非常深刻的合作关系。当时我记得徐小平和王强就跟我讲到过，咱们投资的一个核心观点在于投资团队本身，因为我们知道，虽然我们投的是一个去中心化的加密货币，不管说这个技术有多么的先进，整个开发过程有多么的安全，我们投的始终是一个人，人他本身并不是去中心化的，而且我们现在投的是一个早期项目，人他本身就显得额外的重要。
So one thing that we weren't doing as much in 2016-17 that we did much more on this bull run prior to investing is we spent time with the founders. We did it, actually, this is a Chinese way of investing. Americans can typically do an investment based on some due diligence Zoom calls, but our style is to actually sit down, 吃饭喝酒, Lai Wang, just spending time with the founders to really get a feel for them, because that's super important to see what type of character they have. Another thing is also relationships in the industry, like doing due diligence, trusting people that you know. For example, if there's a deal in China we're going to invest into, I call Yushan, say, what do you think? 这个项目，这个创始人怎么样? David, just last week, we were talking and you gave me your thoughts on something, and that's super valuable because in the end, again, it's down to people, whether it's the founders or your networks. Like, it's a trust of you want to do business with people who have integrity and have the right character. And with crypto, like, it's not just enough to have integrity. You got to have the right character, because what happens is sometimes when founders get super rich, they become lazy and they start going off the deep end. And you need to have people who are used to being wealthy, or at least if they all of a sudden become wealthy, they're not going to lose their minds. And that's really important for us. So something that we've been doing more of is getting more active with the projects. We were doing that all the way since 2018. But now, like on this run, we're taking board seats. We're having people on teams where we know them already, and that's really important, I think, for the next bull run.
那么其实我们当时在上一轮牛市，也就是2016到2017年的时候，我们其实投资的时候动作是没有那么快的。大家知道，在美国社会，我们决定是否要投资一个新的项目，例行流程就是进行一些尽职调查，以及开一些这样的 Zoom 的会议，就可以进行拍板了。但是我其实非常欣赏并且尊重中国的一些商业文化，我们会通过一些商务晚宴的形式，通过吃饭和喝酒来了解这些创始人他们的一些品行和他们的一些特质，这是第一点。第二点呢，我是非常关注和创始人之间的关系的，因为这个关系的核心就是我们看看我们彼此是否能够彼此的信任。 比方说，我和玉山决定要一起投项目的时候，和 David 一起分享我们的想法的时候，我觉得就是一个能够看看是不是彼此能够建立信任的过程。毕竟在了解一个项目的创始人的时候，我觉得信任他很关键。我们需要看看他的一些个人的基本的素养，他的品行，他是否实诚和正直。虽然说我们做的是一些，尤其我们做的是加密货币行业，我们不希望出现这种情况。有的创始人可能他很快就会富起来，一旦他富裕了之后，他就变得不再愿意去管项目了，这就不是我们希望能够看到的。所以我们也希望这个创始人，不管他是本身就条件比较好，还是他后来创业积累财富，他都能够保持清醒的头脑和保持勤勉的一个态度。所以当然我们最近，比方说从2018年被投项目以来呢，我们可能会在董事会去拿一些席位。现在我们看项目的话，包括像未来下一个牛市看项目的话，我们也希望这个团队里是有我们信任、能够值得依赖的人的。
Great answers. I think that's a very unique combination of Chinese style of investment and then the Western style. So that is a very unique philosophy, which is, I think it's also an advantage of, RockTree Capital. The next question I'd like to ask Mr. Yushan, Mr. Yushan, you're known as the, Dashan in the crypto community and the founder of Waterdrip and, the funding member of Nova, delivering solid returns to your investors and many successful cases in the past. How does 2022 factors in your performance? 2022 has opportunities, but for some investors, it is one of their worst years. How would you rate your 2022?
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking. So I believe the past 1 year was a tough year for most of the crypto funds. So especially for those superstar funds in the last 2 years. So actually, it's not very surprising very surprising for me, as we always see profits and losses usually come from same sources, right? High leverage made them and then destroyed them within one single bull and bear cycle. They didn't get through. So for Waterdrip, we are lucky that our fund was not directly affected by the collapse of Luna, 3EC, or FTX. Of course, if we don't take the co-invested deals into account. Obviously, right now we are more conservative compared with 1 year ago. For example, we invested in over 70 projects in 220 and 221, but we changed our investment philosophy by the end of last year, as we strongly felt that the bear market was approaching at that time. So the result is we only invested in 12 projects so far in 2022. Our track record for all of our previous funds so far are positive, and I hope we can keep this record. So even in the bear market, which I think it will last at least 1 more year. If I have to rate myself, 80%, that's it. 我来翻译一下。首先，我相信那个2022呢是对所有的这个加密基金都是一个非常困难的一年尤其是那些在过去2年中有些非常明星的一些机构，他们都很困难。但实际上这个事情并不是特别的意外，因为我们经常说盈亏同源嘛。非常高的一个杠杆的操作成就了他们，同时也摧毁了他们，仅仅是在一个牛熊周期之内。我们自己的话还算比较幸运，因为我们并没有受这个几次崩盘事件的直接影响，比如说 Luna 啊、3件啊、FTX 啊都没有直接影响到我们。当然了，我们跟这些机构都 同时投了很多项目，这些都难免的受到了影响，也非常这个非常悲剧。我们现在的话，实际上是相对于1年之前，我们是保守了很多。20年和21年，我们总共投了超过70个项目，但实际上，在21年的年底，我们就把投资逻辑，我们就更改了我们的投资逻辑，因为我们当时非常强烈的意识到这个熊市可能要来了，所以整个的22年截止到目前，其实我们只投了12个项目。那从这个业绩来讲的话，那我们之前的几期基金非常幸运的都是业绩都是正的，就都是给我们的投资人，包括我们团队是赚到钱的这个至少账面上因为有的基金还没有完全推出完当然我们希望能够保持这个比较好的一个记录即使是在未来1年，我们觉得至少1年嘛，我们预测还是熊市的情况下，我们依然希望能保持这个记录吧。那如果非得给自己打分的话，勉强80分吧，就还有进步空间，但是勉强及格这样的。谢谢。
Great answers. I think for the last years, all the survivors should be commiserated because many institutions and retail investors were sadly let's say taken out by Luna or FTX explosion. So congratulations, guys. The last questions I would like to ask you all guys is I wanted to ask all three of you to end our today's sessions by commenting on the following 2 questions. Number 1 is, what is the most important things that you learned in 2022? And number 2, what lessons will you apply to your future investment, and particularly in the next bull run? Dashan, would you like to go first?
Okay. What I learned from 2022 is survival is the first priority. So this is actually a sentence from a science fiction called Three-Body Problem. As you may know, Waterdrip was also named from Three-Body Problem. So I think no matter for institutional investor or retail investors, the most important thing is to get yourself on the card table always and never shoot the last bullet, because there's always a lot of opportunity in crypto world. So, but if you have no chip in your hand, you will have no opportunity. So this is what I learned from 2022. And what we are going to do for the next bull run, to speak briefly. So we will insist on long-term value investment. So we have enough patience to wait for the next bull market, and we have strong belief that the bull market will come back, especially for Bitcoin. Yeah, that's the ending for my comment. Thanks. 我翻译一下，就是对于2022年，我觉得这个学到的最重要的还是生存是第一要务这是从那个科幻小说《三体》中的一个句子。那可能有些人知道，我们水滴资本这个水滴实际上也是从《三体》这个小说里面取的名字不是那个中国传统的那个水滴，当然也可以有这个意思但是我们确实是从《三体》里取的名字。那我认为，不论是从对于机构投资者或者是散户投资者来说，永远让自己在牌桌上，永远不要把最后一颗子弹打出去在这个投资市场是最重要的，因为在这个市场实际上是永远有很多很多机会的，只要你手里有筹码，那总能等到这种机会这是我们对于2022年学到的。那我们其实经过的几个周期，每个周期都有一些明星的机构出现，然后他们又消失但是真正的坚持下来的，你会发现他们是一直在变强变大的这是我们学到的，特别是在熊市，我觉得很重要。那对于下个牛市的一个展望的话，首先 我们是有足够的耐心来等待下个牛市到来，不管是1年之后、2年之后，甚至3年之后，那我们第一有足够的筹码，第二有足够的耐心，而且我们确实也非常非常的坚信，这个不是空话啊，就我们真的是从各个数据啊、从逻辑啊、从各个方面来分析来讲的话，那我们也觉得牛市一定会到来，而且会是一个比之前更加强烈的一个牛市啊，这也作为我们这次分享的一个总结吧。欢迎大家以后私下跟我交流，谢谢。Thank you all.
Thanks, Yishan. Thanks, Yishan. Couldn't agree more. David, do you have anything to add?
Sure, and I'll keep it simple. I think one of the important lessons, that I had for a while, but stood out for last year was diversification. With all of the different things that were happening in the space, being properly diversified and not having more than 5 or 10% of any of your assets on any single platform. If you choose to trade on different exchanges, I think having that mentality protected you from major hits along the way. And another thing is really just that people, sometimes get tricked or confused by the companies that are held out by the media to be the best operators or the best companies. And it's important to always have a healthy amount of skepticism. I've been a longtime supporter of Tether and continue to feel confident in the way they operate in the space. And yet the media likes to focus on all of the problems with Tether, and they overlooked what had happened with and risks at FTX with Alameda. So I think it's important to have that healthy amount of skepticism and just to always be thinking about and looking for things that could go wrong. And doing that will protect you in the long run and give you the best possibility to succeed and be well positioned when things are going very well in the next cycle.
非常感谢。对于我来说，2022年有2个这种相关的经验，可能我还没有做的那么的彻底啊。第一个就是在投资的时候，一定要确保多样化。比方说，我们尽可能的要找更多的一些交易平台，来减少一些重大平台可能出现问题所导致的一些直接的冲击。比方说，我们可以自己设定一个这样的极限，5%到10%。那么第二呢，就是我觉得大家一定要在媒体宣传的很凶的情况下，要保持一定合理空间的怀疑。比方说，我觉得在前几年，我其实一直就非常的看好泰达币，但是其实媒体的评价并不高，反而媒体它对 FTX 还有 Luna 他们的宣传和一些报道是非常的正面的，经常会宣传一些所谓最佳的一些操盘手、最佳的一些企业等等。那么大家在投资的时候一定要非常警惕，一定要保持这种怀疑的态度，而不是只是看到一些媒体的宣传就全部买单而相信，因为只有这样才能够尽可能的去减少出错的概率，并且保持一个长期的稳健。
Great answer. Mr. Omar, would you like to do the final conclusion?
Sure. I think the big thing we learned in 2022 is that whatever we learn in 2022, we're probably going to forget in 2025. And that happened 2017 to today. Like we all know, not your keys, not your coins. We all know, be careful of leverage, but people forgot about that. And so I think right now, 现在我们就为下一个大牛市我们做准备。We're just preparing for the next bull market. And I think we have to look at what mistakes, particularly if you did something repeatedly, to really embed it. And actually, a lot of the things that happened last time are probably going to happen next time again. And that's how we're going to be strategically planning. That's the big thing. And the second thing, just I reiterate what I said, it's Web3 is centralized. It's about the people. So you really have to pick who you're going to work with, and you got to pick the best people, people you trust all around the world.
那我和大家分享2点，第一点就是说，我通过去年的话，通过整个2022年的话，我认为啊，我们今年所总结的经验，可能在2025年又没有人记得了。就好比我们可能在2017年所总结的经验和教训，到现在也没有人再记得，并且能够牢记于心。我们其实在几年前就知道，整个市场上可能有一些加密货币是有问题的，有的产品和项目它的杠杆是过高的，但是到现在大家又忘了。我们现在能做的可能就是能够去反思并且复盘当时曾经所犯过的错误，通过之前犯过的错误，看是否能防止再犯，这就是我们要做这种战略定位的一个意义，这样才能更好的准备下一次牛市。那么第二点就是我刚刚也说到过了，Web 3.0我们可以把它看作是一个中心化的工具和场所，因为 Web 3.0的发展，它本质上是要关注人的。那么人，我们需要和值得信赖的人、值得去投资的人合作，才能够取得成功。
Great answers. Great summarize. And that also, I might wanted to break the flow a little bit and ask Omar another question, because you're talking about, centralization, and that reminds me of another topic. That topic is regulation. Following FTX, following Luna, there's more tightly regulations, put in places like in Singapore and, America, especially SEC. And I was wondering, will this crypto regulation push this entire industry into a more centralized future? What is your view on, regulations on crypto? Isn't this centralization against the nature of blockchain?
Definitely, centralization is against blockchain. I think I'm just going to keep this brief. I think that certain governments do their best to stifle the development of decentralized finance and decentralization. But we have technology in our hand, and it's impossible to put back in the bottle. So the thing I'm most concerned about is something called regulatory capture, where certain groups such as Wall Street, or we saw specifically with SBF, would try to influence the government just for their own purpose, not for the wider society, not even the government's purpose. It's really for their own purposes. And we saw that happening. And I could see that happening more in Washington, given some of the issues that have developed. And so we just have to be careful of that.
那我再想问欧玛一个问题，因为刚刚您说到整个中心化的话，我们也看到随着去年像 FTX 还有像 Luna 的暴雷，确实像有一些我们现在也看到了政府在加强他们的监管，在一些部分的国家，包括像新加坡、美国都有这样的趋势，美国证监会呢也是推手之一。所以我想请问一下，在未来的话，像中心化是否会成为一个未来的趋势？政府是否会加强对加密货币的监管？以及我们今天说到的中心化是否是天然就是区块链的一个敌手呢？答案当然是啊，因为确实中心化它本来就是不利于区块链的发展的。有一些政府现在确实在遏制整个 DeFi 的发展，也真正的不利于去中心化整个市场的话。我们知道现在技术已经发展起来了，已经发展起来的技术也不可能让人们倒退到过去，所以这种监管方面的一些追逐也好，我们说监管上面的压力也好，很多情况下在我看来，比方是有一些传统机构在背后作祟，包括我觉得华尔街就是其中一个典型的例子。华尔街在推动对去中心化的打压方面，他们并不是说去为了实现政府的目的，也不是为了整个社会的大众福利，他们更多的就是为了满足自己传统金融机构的一些利益。所以在美国这点特别明显，我相信大家也能够看得到。
Thank you for sharing. This is some very valuable information that we've been talking about today. And thank you for participating. And well, hopefully that we'll all see each other again in the next bull market.
非常感谢各位，今天大家说的非常的精彩，也谢谢各位的时间。我也希望很快就能和各位在牛市顶峰相见。
And I want to thank Blockbeats and Thomas, and also guests David and Yushan as well, and for such a great panel.
我今天也非常感谢
Thank
我们区块律动的 Thomas， 还有我们2位所谓的大牛嘉宾，像 David 还有玉山，感谢你们的加入。
Yes, thanks Omar, thanks David, thanks Yushan. Thank you
Thank you,
guys.
Omar. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
好的，好的。
Bye bye. Have a good day. Have a good day.
好的，那么今天我们的这个Blockbeats 的直播呢，就到这里就结束了。最后呢，我们还有礼物送给大家，大家可以去推特参与一下抽奖，我们将会送出精美的周边礼品。具体规则呢也是非常简单，就是关注 Blockbeats 以及 RockTree 的推特，转发本次直播内容的推特即可。我们的奖品呢是由 RockTree 提供的，他们准备的这个 RockTree 的 T 恤还有帽子周边。奖品一共是有10份，祝大家好运。那么我们就下期节目再见了 ，Goodbye。
拜拜。